You know what? When most people think of crime fiction, they think of dark alleys, gritty detectives, and bodies turning up in creeks. But Janet Evanovich proved that you can make best-selling crime fiction that makes people laugh out loud. And honestly, that's terrifying to try. I'm TJ Stecker, former naval flight officer turned crime writer. And this is Fireside Writer, where we dig into the authors who helped shape this genre we love. Before we begin, if you're serious about crime fiction, if you want to learn from the best while figuring this out alongside me, hit that like button and subscribe. I'm building a community of writers who care about craft. So, Janet Evanovich. Before she became a household name with characters like Stephanie Plum, Evanovich spent a decade writing romance novels. 10 years, and she wasn't an overnight success. She was rejected by dozens of publishers before selling her first book. But when she created Stephanie Plum for her 1994 debut, One for the Money, she didn't just write another PI series. She blew up the formula. She took the bones of crime fiction, the investigation, the danger, the mystery, and wrapped them in humor and heart and characters so vivid they feel like your own weird family. Funnily enough, I've been reading Evanovich since the 90s too. Even when she came out in 1994, I started listening to books on CD with my family on our long trips from North Carolina down to Florida. Back then, and I think you can still some now, at Cracker Barrels you could stop and you could rent books on CD. And that's what we would do to help pass the time for that long trip. And I remember every single time we would go, I'd be excited for the next Stephanie Plum mystery. So we'd rent one from the Cracker Barrel and return it to the next Cracker Barrel we saw on the way back. And it was just a great time. And I didn't know it then, but I know it now. Janet Evanovich was shaping my literary career from as early as ages as 12 or 13. Evanovich once said in an interview, "I wanted to write about a woman who was just like me, who wasn't a size 2, who didn't have her life together, who made terrible decisions about men." And that willingness to make her character, Stephanie Plum, flawed and funny, that resonated with readers. The series has sold over 80 million copies, 80 million, and it's still going. Evanovich talks a lot about her process. She said, "I write 7 days a week, starting at 7:30 a.m., taking a break for lunch and stopping around 4 p.m. I write about 2,000 words a day. If I'm way off, I'll rewrite, but usually I just keep pushing forward." That discipline is real, but what strikes me the most is what she said about humor. The humor isn't planned. It comes from the characters. If you know your characters well enough, they'll be funny on their own. That's the key, isn't it? The humor in her books doesn't feel forced. It emerges naturally from Stephanie's voice, from Grandma Mazur's chaos, from the absurdity of the situations, but it's always grounded in character. You know, when I started studying for this I Want to Write Like of Janet Evanovich, I hadn't thought about it, but Grandma Mazur is very similar to one of my characters from both Moth and Redacted, and that's Grandma Phoebe, Jeff and Jolene's grandmother. She's wacky and her life is chaos. And I can't help but think that the early listening and reading of Janet Evanovich and her Grandma Mazur character had to have played a role in some subconscious level in my creating of Grandma Phoebe. But let's talk about One for the Money, the book that started it all. Stephanie Plum is laid off from her job as a lingerie buyer, desperate for money, and blackmails her cousin Vinny, giving her a job at his bail bonds agency. Her first assignment? Bring in Joe Morelli, a cop accused of murder who also happens to be the guy who took her virginity behind the Eclair case of the Tasty Pastry when she was 16. The setup is brilliant because it's personal, it's funny, and it's dangerous all at once. And here's how Evanovich opens the book. "There are some men who enter a woman's life and screw it up forever. Joseph Morelli did this to me. Not forever, but periodically." Right there, first line, you know this is going to be messy, personal, entertaining as hell. The plot moves fast. Stephanie is learning on the job. She gets threatened, she gets shot at, and somehow survives through a combination of stubbornness, luck, and help from Ranger, the mysterious and far too attractive fellow bounty hunter. But what makes it work isn't just the plot, it's Stephanie's voice. Listen to this. "I was wearing a minimum of makeup. My hair was pulled into a half-assed ponytail. I was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, and carried a .38 in my purse. It wasn't nearly as heavy as my .45, and I could manage it at close range." That self-deprecating humor, that awareness of her own limitations, that's what makes you root for her. She's not a badass, she's just trying not to die. And the supporting cast? Grandma Mazur steals every scene she's in. Rex the hamster is somehow a comfort character. The will they, won't they tension between Stephanie, Ranger, and Morelli keeps us coming back for 30 more books. Now here's where I have to be honest. I don't write humor the same way Janet Evanovich does. My books, Redacted and The Moth, they're dark. They deal with conspiracy, corruption, and addiction. They're set in the mountains of North Carolina, and they're about damaged people who try to navigate a world that doesn't give a damn about them. But they do contain moments of humor, and it comes naturally through the characters' own voices. That's what Evanovich has really taught me. is that voice counts more than anything. When I read Stephanie Plum, I'm not reading because of the mystery. I'm reading because of her. Because she's funny, flawed, relatable, and real. That's what I'm trying to do with my protagonist, the Moth, Jolene Coburn. She's not cracking jokes like Stephanie. She's got her own voice. Southern, sharp, guarded, with a dry edge that cuts through the darkness. And here's a line from the Moth. The room seemed to buzz as Jolene felt she was so close to understanding, but yet so far. She rubbed her eyes. Maybe she just needed sleep, but that still seemed as far off as figuring out what was happening. That's not funny, but that's her. It's authentic to who Jolene is. A deputy investigator, exhausted and overwhelmed, but pushing through because that's what she does. Evanovich has also shown me that you can blend commercial appeal with strong craft. Her books move fast, they're entertaining, and they sell, but they're structurally sound. The pacing is tight, the dialogue pops. The characters are consistent. She doesn't sacrifice the craft for entertainment. She uses craft to create entertainment. And that's what I'm chasing. I want to write books that grip readers, that keep them turning pages, but that also respect the craft. That's why I study authors like Evanovich, even though our styles are completely different. So what can we learn from Janet Evanovich? First, voice is everything. If your character's voice is strong enough, readers will follow them anywhere, even into danger, into chaos. Second, humor doesn't have to mean lightweight. Evanovich writes about murder, corruption, and violence, but she does it with a wink. That tonal balance is hard to pull off, but when it works, it's magic. Third, discipline matters. Evanovich writes every single day. She treats it like a job, and that's why she sold over 80 million copies. I'm still figuring this out. I'm still trying to learn how to make my characters' voices sing, how to balance moments of darkness with levity, how to keep readers hooked on page after page. But studying writers like Evanovich, that's how we get better. If you're working on your own crime fiction, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below and make sure you like and subscribe. On Fireside Writer, I share more craft breakdowns, writing updates, and honest conversations about this journey. Until next time, keep writing, keep learning, and keep pushing forward. This is Fireside Writer, and I'm TJ Stecker.